What's up, Babz?
Woo! Happy Thursday. Happy Friday Eve, Harry. Oh, good morning, everybody else. If you just tuned in, and I just got my YouTube notice, Harry, which I never got those before. I got the YouTube. So if you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and wherever the hell else Harry has us, then I'm Babz Rawls-Ivy. That's Harry Jones. Welcome to LoveBabz, LoveTalk.
You know, I get my YouTube notice maybe once a month.
I saw it pop up on my phone. I was like, what is that? I was like, what the hell did I subscribe to now?
Yeah, they're not very reliable with the notification.
Oh, guess what? So we're talking this morning. We talk every morning, but we have a guest at 9:15. Mike Morand from the Beinecke is coming in to talk about the Beinecke. And the Beinecke is back, Harry. They're bringing Beinecke back. Mofos don't know how to act.
That's right.
Harry.
The Beinecke's bringing sexy back.
It's bringing sexy back, Harry. Harry, I didn't even, until Mike Morand was at the Beinecke, I had no idea that regular people could go in there. Because, you know, so much of Yale is under lock and key and cloak. You know, you don't know where you can go and not go. So I just assume 90% of Yale is off limits to people that are not in there, you know, work for them, enrolled in there or whatever. So when he got over there and he started hosting stuff, Harry, we were all like creeping in the door like, we can come in here. Like, we can come in, Mike? He's like, yeah, come on in. And I got treats and snacks and reception and wine and beer for you. Come on in. So I've been going ever since. And then when the pandemic hit, it just shut us all the way down.
Do you hear that?
Yeah, I hear it. What is that? They got some new music?
No, I was working on the Mike Morand cube.
Oh. Did it work?
I got it, but I'm not sure if I could reveal it on this computer. So I might have to go over there when he comes in to do it.
Okay, he should be in a few minutes. You know, he's probably out taking pictures. You know, he's always snapping pictures. He's always snapping pictures of sites around on his way to work, and he calls it New Heaven. And he really needs to have an exhibit somewhere. Like, he should have an ongoing exhibit because he takes the most beautiful photographs, and there are always places, Harry, where you don't know where the hell it is. I think, where the hell is that, Mike Morand? It's in New Haven. It's in New Haven, Harry. It's like, what the hell is that? He should have a contest. I'm gonna tell him that. I always tell him that, though. I always like, you should have an exhibit. I mean, he's an artist. You know.
What time is it? Oh, it's almost time.
It's almost time. He should be popping in any
Tell me if you can see this.
I see it. He's all dressed up. I see it.
Oh, great. He's coming in the room now, so perfect.
Oh, he's giving me the Beinecke vibe. You know, they got those interesting marble walls that are like, you know, floor, you know, like you could see through them, right? And oh, that's a nice shirt. He's always so dapper, though. You know, he spends a lot of time in Africa. I am jealous all the time. Every time he gets over to Accra, I'm like, what? How's Mike Morand in Accra and I'm not?
You got to go with me sometime.
Oh my God! You say no more. I'll take that as the invitation.
How are you this morning?
Good morning, Mike Morand. You look amazing. I love this shirt. I love the Beinecke behind you.
You bring out the best in everybody.
Oh, I don't know about that. There's some who will beg to differ. So listen, I was telling Harry, I said, you know, before you got to the Beinecke, regular folks didn't know they could go in there. We didn't know we could go in there. And you were like, oh yeah, come to the event. And we were like, are you sure? It's one of my favorite places in New Haven. Hands Down. I'd never been in a Beinecke until you got there, and I went. I think it was the Langston Hughes event. I think that was the first event that I ever saw, and you just treated everybody so well, and it was a wonderful reception. It was just well done. And then so I started coming as we started seeing the calendar of things. So we started coming. So the Beinecke is back.
Amen. And we're really excited about what we've got going on. We're open 7 days a week now.
Woo!
The good news is we're easy to find on Google. There aren't a lot of Beineckes, so encourage everybody to seek us out at Beinecke, BEINECKE.library.yale.edu. But the Google machine will take you quickly to our website. We're open now weekdays till 4:30, and on the weekends on Saturdays and Sundays noon to 4 for the exhibition hall. And really excited. We had 410 people in this past Saturday, and so
my God,
we're walk-in visitors. So we're at a level that's actually pretty close to where we were before the pandemic, which is exciting. And it's always free. And the exhibition hall features both permanent exhibitions, including the Gutenberg Bible and John James Audubon's Birds of America. And right now we have an epic show called Brava, Women Make American Theater, curated by Melissa Barton. So
she's coming on the 19th to talk about this. I'm such a fan of Melissa Barton. I'm a huge, huge fan of her.
She's amazing. She's done really great exhibitions. She helped lead with Nancy Kuhl the celebration of the James Weldon Johnson Memorial Collection at 75. That's one of the great collections here. And it's also one of the great collections of African Americana anywhere in the world. It was established in Mr. Johnson's honor. That includes his papers and his wife's, Langston Hughes's papers, really incredible. And Melissa has drawn on the full breadth of the Yale Collection of American Literature for this show, Brava, Women Make American Theater. And it features women in front of the scenes, behind the scenes, writing, directing, costume designing, acting, all kinds of roles. And one of the most interesting vignettes is one that features Lorraine Hansberry and her interactions with Langston Hughes as she was writing Raisin in the Sun, which of course has local roots in that its first appearance in the world on stage was just down the street at the Schubert Theater. So there's lots of good things in the show Brava, which is up through Sunday, July 3rd. Hope everybody will come down, and Melissa's very excited to be joining you next month for a more in-depth conversation about that exhibition.
Absolutely, I'm coming. I saw the Richard Wright stuff that you had over there. I saw oh my God, I saw so many things. Is the Oscars still up? You had Oscars from folks up?
Like there are 5 Oscars from Irene Sharaf, who was the costume designer for many things, including West Side Story and The King and I. So yeah.
How did you get those? Like the family just gives them to you, or you just like how does this library thing work?
We actually to the drama school, and then we're brought over to Beinecke Library and Yale Library Special Collections. People know that this is a place that takes good care and that it's a place that makes things accessible. So the exhibition hall is free and open to the public. The reading room here in Beinecke and across Yale Library Special Collections are open again to all. So to look at these things from a research perspective, you don't have to be a Yale affiliate. You don't have to have a PhD. You don't have to be on a track to have a PhD. You just have to want to take a look at them. So people are keen to have their papers and archives here because they know they'll be well tended for, well stewarded, but they also know that they'll be accessible to people. They'll be accessible in the reading room, they'll be accessible for teaching, and they can be accessible online. When we were closed for the pandemic, my colleagues here in Beinecke and across Yale Library were scanning away. We always do in all times. But in the pandemic times, there was a lot of scan on demand done for folks since we couldn't be as accessible on site. And so hundreds and hundreds of thousands. So we aim to be a place that's accessible in public exhibitions, in the reading room to individuals coming in, as well as online. And again, it's always free and open to all. So encourage everybody to access us online if they're at a distance, or if it's hours we're not open, and to come on down and see the exhibitions.
So, I knew you when you were over at the, government affairs, doing trying to work out town gown relation kind of stuff. And so when you get the call to come over to the Beinecke, what are you thinking? Do you think, you know what, I don't know, or yes, I'd like that opportunity? Like what were your thoughts?
I mean, I think like you and like many, I'm a library lover. And I often say I might have 2 degrees from Yale, but my original education and my highest degree perhaps comes from the Public Library of Cincinnati and Hamilton County. And it was the library as a kid that was my passport to the world. So I've always loved libraries and have been very active with the New Haven Free Public Library. We can talk in a little bit about some stuff we'll be doing up at Stetson. And we're also excited about the new home for the Stetson Library that Diane Brown leads up on Dixwell Avenue. And so I've always loved public libraries. Came to Yale as a student, fell in love with Yale Library. You know, on Sterling Memorial Library, it says correctly, the library is the heart of the university. And I've always thought that's true. And I've known that the public library is the heart of the city. So I was always around libraries. And back in 2016, came to work at Beinecke, and I have to say, pretty high expectations. I mean, this is a place that's got a good reputation. I knew it some, but I knew it, as it were, in 2 dimensions. I knew it in passing. And being able to be here in person with the extraordinary colleagues across Yale Library, who are kind, generous, smart folk, it really far exceeds any expectations I had from a professional perspective. So I've been blessed to do lots of interesting things in my career, but this is by far the most energizing among many energizing things. And it's because we steward these amazing resources. You know, I mean, it really is incredible what's here. And we're able to share them and be able to say, Babz, this is your library. You know, you can come. And that is a magnificent transaction, to be able to be in that position where we can say we help care for these things, but they are for everybody. And for us, the value in these materials, you know, oftentimes it won't surprise you, people will come on a tour and they'll look at something like the Gutenberg Bible and they'll say, what's it worth? That's natural. We all think about this.
It didn't even occur to me to think of that, but okay.
And I always say, well, it doesn't have monetary value in the sense that we're not selling it. So there's no market value. You know, the value is in what you bring to the encounter with it. The value is people engaging with these things in exhibitions, in the classroom, in the reading room, people coming, doing research and creating new scholarship, whether it's in books or documentary films, in the kind of interaction people have online, whether it's on our digital library, on social media. So it's really exciting for my colleagues and me to be in a position where we are able to be amidst such incredible resources, but most importantly, be able to say, these are resources for all to engage. The Beinecke brothers, who gave the resources for the Beinecke Library, wanted it to be, as they said, an inspiration to all who enter. And that's actually emblazoned above the welcome desk on the ground floor at 121 Wall Street in the Beinecke Library, inspiration to all who enter. And all of those words matter. Inspiration, it is a place, anybody who's walked in here the first time, people generally go, and those of us who walk in here every day, it's inspiring every day. It doesn't get old. But the all part is also really important, and we're really keen on that these are resources that we steward here at Yale, in Yale Library, but we want to make sure that they're accessible to people, again, in person, in exhibitions, in the reading room, in the classroom, and online. And we're really fortunate, those of us who work here, to have leaders like Barbara Rockenbach, who's the university librarian, and Micheal Light, who's the new director of the Beinecke Library, who are completely committed to community engagement. And so this is not an afterthought for what we do in Beinecke Library, across Yale Library. It's at the heart of what we do. So it's a really exciting time, and so exciting coming out of the pandemic. We've got some really great things we're doing, and I'm excited that the sort of first public conversation is with you, because you have been such a champion of this Beinecke Library, and are such a champion for libraries and literacy, and such a connector across town. So it's all the better to have our first post-pandemic conversation on the LoveBabz show.
I love it. Now, listen, I've gone there and heard music, the horns and I've heard singing, and I've heard I've poetry reading, and I've heard orations and oratory kinds of things. So it's not just, come and look at the books, but it is come and have an experience. Is that deliberate, Micheal? Like how do you sort of plan for those kinds of things? Like how do you decide, like, you know what, I'm gonna have the black a cappella groups come and sing for a particular thing? I mean, I some of that stuff I didn't even know existed until I got there and saw it. And some of the things that I was new to, like I had no idea the brass folks that play the brass instruments. I thought that was just so amazing for I think it was the holidays. Beautifully done. So how do you plan for those kinds of things?
I mean, I think we look to activate and connect. I'm really excited about the International Festival generally, and I'm really excited about their theme this year, which is connect. And that's what you do. That's what we aim to do in the library. And to connect people to these collections is to make them alive and to remind people that we're in a dynamic enterprise here, which is connecting people with the past in the present for the future. And I think a lot about a headline I saw going back through the archives when the building here at 121 Wall Street, the Beinecke Library building, opened. The Yale Daily News, the student newspaper, headline said something like, "Windowless tomb opens, houses millions of dead books." And of course, I know, it's alive. I mean, that's the whole point, is this is a place that has some very old things. We have some very new things too. We collect things in our time, not just things that are 1,000 years old or 100 years old. But the whole sense of the place is it's alive. These are materials that are accessible for us to engage in a dynamic way to help make sense of the past. Like, how did we get to where we are? And we learn that by engaging with these materials, engaging with ancestors, whether they're literal ancestors or ancestors of a space and a place, or other people's ancestors, because we live now together. How did we all get to be in this place where we are? And it's this dynamic work. And of course, sometimes it's individuals encountering materials, sitting at a desk in the reading room and doing really close reading, and that's great, and that's an important thing. But it's also a communal activity of people gathering around, talking about things, gathering around, hearing others talk about them. And performance is such an important way of activating the collections and showing that they're alive. So yesterday, we actually had the first event on site we've had since we've reopened, and it was a reading by some really terrific Yale undergraduate poets, an annual reading that my colleague Nancy Kuhl pulls together with colleagues in the English department. And it's really great to listen to young poets read in this place that has all kinds of poetry in its collections. And we're really blessed to be on a campus in a town where there's so many dimensions. We have collections of poetry and drama, for example, and we have people who teach and study drama, and then we have people who make theater. And it's all of those things together that make this library what it is, not merely that we hold the collections, but there are individuals and communities and audiences who can engage with them in a living way. And as you noted, having performances, whether it's musical or readings, is an important part. And I'm really excited this year we'll bring back our annual reading for Independence Day, featuring the Declaration of Independence and Frederick Douglass oration, known to us as "What to the Slave is the 4th of July." And I want to pandemically invite you to come back. You're such a fellow reader in that, and we're so great in the pandemic times. We did a virtual reading, and shout out to our colleagues at the Institute Library who allowed us to do some filming there. But we're excited to bring that back on, I think it'll be July 5th. So want to make sure and sort of put you on the spot. Are you in, Babz?
I'm always in. I'm in. It's, you know what, it has become, since I've done it, I guess this will be like the third time I've done it at your request. It has become part of my way of sort of connecting to history and just reminding myself about how far we've come and how far we have to go. So and then until you introduced it to me, I had never really spent that much time. Having gone to a historically Black college, I knew of the piece, but I had no real, I was not connected to the piece. And so you've connected me to the piece in a very real way. So I appreciate that. So yes, I'll come and do it. Yeah.
Again, those are the kinds of events that are great in and of themselves, brings people together. We gather in community to hear these extraordinary, what we might consider, and people have talked about as sort of secular scripture in some ways, right? These extraordinary documents from the past. We also put on view the first printing of the Declaration of Sentiments, which came out of the first Women's Rights Convention at Seneca Falls in 1848, that was actually printed on Mr. Douglas's North Star Press. So those are great in and of themselves, but they're also great because they serve as catalysts and invitations. As you know, and as we're hoping many, many more people will continue to know, we steward a great collection of materials about Frederick Douglass and the Douglass family that came to us from the wonderful collector, Dr. Walter Evans. And so we hope that events like the reading are not only great in and of themselves, that's a wonderful thing, but people will come and say, oh, there's all these other Frederick Douglass materials which we can access. And we've digitized the entire collection, so you can look at them anytime online. And again, they're featured from time to time in exhibitions. We've got some of it actually on vinyls on the outside windows. We use it in teaching. People can use it in the reading room. So events can be really useful to say to people, not just come to the event, but serve as an invitation that you can come in. You're interested in that, whether you're learning about it for the first time or learning about it more, that there's ways that you can continue to learn through the collections online or on site. So events can really be a nice way of reminding people the important fact that these collections are alive and these collections are for everyone to engage. One of the events that we've got coming up and that we're excited to do more and to do things not only here in the library, but to be out is on May 8th. And we're partnering with the Greater New Haven African American Historical Society and Carolyn Baker and Diane Pettaway doing such a great job as co-presidents of that organization and with the Stetson Library to do an event on May 8th that will be inspired by a collection we have here at Beinecke, or a set of minutes of the New Haven part of the Women's 20th Century Club. And that's completely digitized. So again, it's a resource that people can read online, see online, but we're also looking to activate in this partnership with the Greater New Haven African American Historical Society and Stetson Library on May 8th at 3 p.m. on Sunday, May 8th, 3 p.m. at the new Stetson in the new Q House. And again, encourage people to go to our website, go to Facebook. You can find this information all around. And this was actually spurred partly, I was up taking the great walking tour that you led back in October, I think, with the Greater New Haven African American Historical Society. And it was one of those sort of first things that we were all doing coming out of the fog of the pandemic. And I followed up with Carolyn Baker and Diane Pettaway and said, that was great. Let's do some stuff together from Beinecke and the Historical Society. And they were like, we had the same thought. And it's just proof. And again, shout out to you in that case, because you're oftentimes a catalyst for the connections. Our town is a blessed place. It has its challenges for sure, and we need to honestly confront them. But one of the great things of this town is it's compact. We're a really interesting, super diverse, wildly, fantastically cosmopolitan place, but it's in a very compact area. So shame on us if we don't all work together. The opportunities are so great. And you really point the way for this in the work that you do with this show and your work as a civic leader. And so it was so exciting, to send a note off to Carolyn and Diane and to get immediate back saying, we thought the same thing. And really excited, and to do it in the new Stetson Library. And it will feature this event on May 8th. Lisa Monroe, great scholar, journey of the community who knows of the history of the Women's 20th Century Club. It'll feature Karima Robinson, who, as you may know, does a one-woman show of Ida B. Wells. And Ida B. Wells, who is the organizer really of the Women's 20th Century Club, came to New Haven to establish the chapter in New Haven. So really excited. And of course, the Women's 20th Century Club played a key role in the continuity and the sort of reorganization of the Hannah Gray home. So its influence continues down to our day. And I won't give any spoiler alerts, but people should go look at this minutes that are online, come to the event and think about it. And it's just really a great thing to look at organizing 100 years ago and what it meant for then and what we can make of it today. So really excited about that event, and excited about how that will point to other things we can do to grow an even stronger network of New Haven history. Again, our community has such extraordinary resources for history. What the Connecticut Freedom Trail has done, what Amistad Committee has done, what Discovering Amistad does. Southern's got really great resources, and they've just uplifted the archives of New Haven mayors, Mayor Harp, Mayor Daniels, Mayor DeStefano, Mayor DeLito. New Haven Museum does great things. We've got great collections in Yale Library, Grove Street Cemetery, on and on and on. We've got so much accessible history in our town. People may not know it. So it's on the us's, the Mikes and Babz and others, to do what we're doing, to share it with people and to say, yeah, this history is yours and it's accessible, and make use of it. And here's how you do it. And let's encourage everybody. We should be a town, I really think, that is known for its East Rock and West Rock, its harbor, its pizza, but also for how much of its culture is accessible to people and how much people access that cultural heritage. We've got so many historic resources here, so many stories to be known, more stories to be recovered. What the Freedom Trail and Dana King and others did with William Lanson should point the way. We should look at that and say, who else can we uplift? Let's uplift Bias and Margaret Stanley and Prince Duplex and all these other stories that some people know about that many, many more need to know about. So I think it's a really exciting time of opportunity for us to be doing work here in Yale Library, in the community, learn from each other, and make the sum of our cultural heritage resources greater than the parts. It's really exciting time.
I think you're absolutely right. And I want you to talk about the HBCU connection, because I've watched the piece online. I've seen it go around, and that's a fascinating story. I first knew of the story a few years ago on Yale's campus. There was a film screening, the PBS of Tell 'Em We're Rising, about the history of historically Black colleges and universities in the United States. And so for the Connecticut screening, they showed a little bit of how there would have been the first HBCU here in New Haven were it not for Yale and the city of New Haven itself sort of putting the kibosh on that. And so it's sort of like a little unknown piece of history that has found its way into our consciousness. And I believe you are leading the charge with having this conversation, elevating this piece of history, having this conversation, and inviting people to sort of know this history. So can you talk a little bit about that? Yeah,
and I'll flip. Welcome to my office, and I'll try and since some of this is people seeing things online on Facebook and elsewhere, but also try and do audio description, since obviously some folks are listening to this. But what I'm holding up is a document from 1831 that was put together by Simeon Jocelyn, who was minister of what we know as the Dixwell Church, and was the white abolitionist who worked very closely with the Free Black leadership of New Haven and connected to the Colored Convention movement, the Free Black movement that began in 1830 out of Philadelphia and was throughout the North, and the sort of leaders in abolition and liberation. And it was out of that context that this idea for a Black college came for New Haven in 1831. And you're right, we recently released a video, which we're hoping to screen in various places, Shout out to my colleague, Tobias Cropper, who was the director and editor of that film, and to Charles Warner Jr., our great neighbor in New Haven, who's the narrator of it. My colleague, Alvin Ashite, who's a student in the Yale School of Art and a neighbor of yours, actually, in New Hallville, Yale School of Art student, and has lived in New Hallville since he came to New Haven in 2019. But Tobias did a really extraordinary job. And it's another example of a way to activate the collections and history. Short documentary films are something that we hope to see more of coming out of the collections about New Haven, out of the Yale and Slavery Project. And Tobias has shown the way with this documentary, and encourage everybody to look at it. And thank you, Babz, for your kind words to his work. I'd also say, as a side note, but an important note, so Tobias, New Haven, born and raised, went to school in New Haven, and then went off to Franklin and Marshall.
I didn't know he was a New Havener. I really did not. I know him, but I didn't know he was a New Havener.
Yeah. So he went off to Franklin and Marshall for college, great place, was a New Haven Promise intern. The New Haven Promise stays connected to kids who go out of state, and they can do internships. And shout out to Patricia Melton and everybody at Promise for all the extraordinary work they do in the internship. Those of us who've worked with it know it's an amazing facet of the overall New Haven Promise program. So Chris Brown, who some will know, another great connector who's with the New Haven Hiring Initiative at Yale, said to me, there's this college student who's a New Haven Promise intern. He'd be great for Beinecke. And it was Tobias Cropper. And talked to Tobias. He was great. He was really interested in this place. So we brought him on as a college student intern. So when he was back home from Franklin and Marshall, he worked here. And he was so great. It was like, we got to keep this. How are we going to keep this guy? So kept him on after he graduated for a little bit, and then actually created a New Haven Promise Fellowship so that we could have him stay for a year. That was great. And then got him a regular job. And he earned a regular job. And there's a number of other people working at Yale who've come up through New Haven Promise interns into full-time work on campus. So again, a shout out to everybody involved, and shout out to Chris Brown for connecting Tobias with the Beinecke. And the work of that film, again, I think is really powerful. Is going to help take this story. And as you said, it was little known. And one of the ways I've sort of thought about it, towns don't tend to have highway signs that say birthplace of the hamburger and we killed the first HBCU, right? So that, people in the majority culture don't want to remember the bad stories. This is known that Gore Vidal once called our country the United States of Amnesia. And it's a problem, because history doesn't go away because you forget about it. It's still there, and the after effects. And of course, we're dealing with both the reality of the history, and we have to deal with the fact that the majority culture tries to ignore it. So there's double impacts there. And telling honest history is a big part. Making honest history possible is a big part of what libraries and universities do. And so this film is a way to uplift this story, which is a tough story, so that we can learn from the past. Why did that happen? What could have been, which is the title of the documentary that Tobias directed and that Charles narrates. And not only what could have been, but what should be. And I was moved by your comment, about the film on social media, and Still We Rise. And to see what happened, one of the important parts of the story that needs to be recalled and remembered is the extraordinary organizing that was done by people to create the African Ecclesiastical Society, which led to what we know as Dixwell Church, to organize and to be agents for the liberation movement. And it's important that we recall and get to know better the stories of people like Bias Stanley and Margaret Stanley and Prince Duplex and Prince Cooper and Scipio Augustus and John Creed and Alexander Luca of New Haven, as well as their colleagues in the broader liberation movement. And it really is an impressive to think about what they did given the context that they were living in and the resource. And I think it very much what you said, and still we rise. So hopefully these stories both say to us what could have been, but also inspire people to think about what should be and what should be done in our time. So we're really excited. And the reason I held this up, this Simeon Jocelyn pamphlet, is it was owned by a man named John Warner Barber, who was a white abolitionist. And on the cover of this document, which is sort of the main document from 1831 about the story, he writes, "To be carefully preserved."
Wow.
It's like a message in a bottle down to us, right? And in case that's not enough, on the inside he signs it and writes again, "To be preserved."
So he understood.
Yeah, and you get the sense that this is the sort of stuff, maybe he wrote this, I'm speculating here, but maybe he wrote this in his later years as he knows his own sunset's coming. And he wants to make sure his kids, it's like, don't throw this one away. This matters. This story matters. And he was one of the few white people who voted for the college and was a supporter of people like Creed and Luca and Duplex and Stanley and all the free black leaders who were organizing in New Haven. And he knew it was important that this be remembered. And so he leaves this note. And I think as long as we have some thread, it's possible for people and communities to come back and recover and to weave the story. And that's what Tobias in his film, so wonderfully narrated by Charles, has done, is to take these threads that are in the archives, in maps, in community memory, and weave them together into a 20-minute short documentary film that will hopefully make it that people do not forget this story and that it's much more broadly known as it should be.
I think you're absolutely right. It's incredible, and it's starting to take on a life of its own throughout community. That people are starting to not only talk about it, but sort of do just what you said. What else do we not know? Like, what are the other people that we need to know about from this community? And I think that's been the greatest thrill out of all of this, is that, you've said these names of these people who came before us that would be lost to us if we did not pay attention and dig them up and unearth them.
Yeah, and I think I was walking the other day in with Jill Snyder, another great community historian, and talk a lot with Charles and with Roy Burns and with others, and of course in the home front, I learn and am inspired by Frank Mitchell all the time. And one of the things Frank has often, sort of noted with me is firsts are great, and we should celebrate first, but we got to make sure we don't stop at first. We need 2, 3, 4, 5, 100, 200, all of these stories, not just one story, all the stories. And you're right that there's it's in the air, it's in the activity, and it's thanks to so many folks who are doing really incredible work. I know ArtSpace will have an artist who's doing some work in recovering, reimagining the 1831 college. There are other places doing things. Again, shout out to the Dana King statue of Lanson. Shout out to what folks have been doing in site projects with that. I'm really excited about what we can do together with the Greater New Haven African American Historical Society and other community local history organizations. It's a good time. High schools are looking at these things. There's great leadership that's come out of faculty and students at Metropolitan Business Academy, among others. So it really is, and that go back to what I said before, we are blessed to have all these resources, all these primary source materials so close to us.
Yes.
If we were in Chicago or LA, they're so big. God bless them, but they're so big. How do you get your hands around the history of a place like that? And even just literally traveling from one end to the other, we're compact. And so we really have the opportunity of building an even stronger network of local history resources And another example I'd uplift is efforts underway to celebrate the bicentennial of Donald Grant Micheal. Micheal is a name many people know because they know the Donald Grant Micheal branch of the New Haven Free Public Library in Westville. But they may not know much about him. Broken Umbrella did a show about him, so there got to be a little bit more known about him. And it's his 200th birthday. Micheal, long story short, New Havener for most of his life, his adult life, lived on a farm at Edgewood. His house still exists. Helped design East Rock Park, was a gentleman farmer, writer, all kinds of interesting books about what's now Westville. And the folks in the neighborhood, when they built the branch, were inspired by him, and so they named it in his honor. We have a lot of materials of his here in Beinecke Library. New Haven Museum has a bunch of things. New Haven Free Public Library has a lot of things. And Barbara Lamb, light bulb went off for Barbara earlier this year that it was his bicentennial. So she put out a call to everybody who's got stuff and said, let's do some things together. And in good New Haven community collaboration fashion, shout out to Barbara for organizing it. Friends of East Rock Park, Friends of Edgewood Park, New Haven Museum, Beinecke, and Yale Library, New Haven Preservation Trust, New Haven Free Public Library, everybody came together and to uplift. We've got a small pop-up exhibition here that people can see. New Haven Museum has a program coming on May 5th. Westville Art Walk's going to have some things celebrating the legacy. There'll be other programs over time, walking tours. There'll probably be more virtual programs. And it's another good example of people's interest in local history and the opportunity when we come together to make, again, as I said previously, the sum more than the parts. We've got amazing parts in New Haven, and we can do an extraordinary thing as we put them together to make a really great sum for the benefit of people who are here now and for generations to come.
I so enjoyed this conversation, but you and I talk all the time like this. So, so this is people actually getting to see how we talk with each other over lunch.
And I wanted to, if I could, and obviously you and I could go on for a long time, but one other thing I wanted to shout out, and you've been a great supporter of this, so thank you for that, is we have a virtual program that has been cranking well during the pandemic called Mondays at Beinecke.
Yes.
Monday at 4:00. And we're going to keep that virtual. It really works well for getting people. And there's a number of ones coming up that I wanted to uplift. On May 2nd, Toy Darricott and Cornelius Eady. The great we're just coming off the 25th anniversary of Cave Canem that Toy and Cornelius founded. So they're going to come together with us online on May 2nd at 4 p.m.
That's my birthday.
Fantastic. And we're gonna sing happy birthday to Babz. And their archives and Cave Canem's are here. So that'll be a great conversation. And people may remember Toy and Cornelius were in conversation with Dwayne Betts in Mardi Gras 2021 for the public library. So it's sort of a virtual return and reunion with them. And then on May 9th, we're going to have a program with Albert Lee, who's another New Haven born and raised scholar who went away to college and was teaching in various places and now back at the Yale School of Music. Albert, who's a son of New Hallville and now back in New Haven after a number of decades of excellence in teaching elsewhere. And so great that he's back at the Yale School of Music. He is, among other things, a scholar of Langston Hughes and music. He actually teaches a course in the Yale School of Music on Langston Hughes and music and the literary legacy of Langston Hughes in American music. So Albert will be on the program on May 9th at 4 p.m. And again, encourage everybody who's within sound of our voice to check out the Beinecke website and social media for more on those things. But really excited about.
Oh, I'm excited about that too. I mean, both these things I'm excited about. So yeah, I'm glad they're still virtual because, I'll come to the Beinecke too, that. But the virtual thing is pretty important too. So I'm glad you're continuing.
We're going to come out into a both and world, right? We're going to continue to do virtual, and we're going to return to doing things in 3 dimensions in real space, and hopefully have the best of both worlds.
Thank you so much, Mike Morand. I enjoyed this I always enjoy these conversations, but I enjoyed you coming on to do this. I appreciate it.
Well, since thinking ahead to May 2nd and your favorite rare book library, maybe I'll offer up, and since you're so kind to be a reader and such a great champion of ours, what's a birthday wish you might want? What kind of programs should we be thinking about doing?
Well, you know what? Y'all do so many good things. I enjoy everything that you do. I love that you all center Black and brown voices beautifully the way that you do. I've been quite impressed, particularly with some of the pictures of the Vanderzee pictures, the Carl Van Vechten pictures. I've just loved seeing all of that stuff. So, yeah, I'm happy.
Well, it is a blessing to be with you. And again, thank you for all that you do for Meineke Library and Yale Library, and for all this community to be such a blessed and beautiful connector of all of us together to make our sum greater than our parts. So thank you to you.
Well, this is our town, Mike Morand, and you're Mr. New Haven, and you know so much about New Haven, and I admire that. And as soon as the weather gets a little bit better, I'm waiting for my Grove Cemetery tour.
Okay.
I've never been in that space either, so I'm excited to go take that tour, see all the peoples.
And Melissa is really looking forward to being with you in this space on May 19th. So again, my last word will be everybody come down and see Brava, Women Make American Theater, the current exhibition up through July 3rd. It really is fantastic. And
I'm coming.
Melissa,
thank you so much, Mike Morand. Say hi to Frank.
Okay. Thanks,
I will
Babz.
see you soon. Enjoy your day.
Bye.
All right. Okay, Harry. Woo! That was a good conversation. Thank you. I love Mike Morand, Mr. New Haven. He is way more Mr. New Haven than I could ever be anything to New Haven. I mean, he truly has a real sense of love and commitment to this community. And it shows. And I don't care what nobody says. Until he arrived at that Meineke, it was not open and welcoming. But now that he's there, it has been an open and welcoming space, I must say. So
Yeah, it all sounds interesting.
you should go, Harry. You'll like
Well,
it.
you
I
did-
love the Meineke. I love the way it looks.
Didn't you say it's virtual?
Well, on Mondays it's virtual.
Yeah, so
Mondays.
I might do that.
Yeah, tune in. I'll make sure you get the link.
That's right.
Get you some of that culture. So, at 10:15, we got Alexis Robbins coming on. She's a choreographer, dancer, artist. And she's my tap dancing teacher, Harry. So I'm going back to tap dancing.
All right,
I can't go today. But
I saw your post on Twitter.
yes.
Now Babz, that your Instagram is private.
Oh, is it? Is that why I can't? That's why I don't know how I did that. I should go back and fix that, right?
Yeah, so anybody who clicked on that link from Twitter can't see what you're, posting because you're private. So maybe you should get like a public account. This way you could throw your whatever you want to throw up there, so you could share it.
Okay. I'll do that. So I need to make my Instagram public.
Well, I know you like to keep your group tight, but you could open another account that's public. This way you could share things on that account.
Okay.
But let's do this.
I'm New Haven Health Director Maritza Babz. If you or your family have COVID-19 symptoms or think you were exposed to someone with COVID, quarantine, stay home, and get tested on day 5 if possible. If you have COVID, isolate, wear a mask, vaccinate, get boosted, and test it as needed. Those are the best ways to stop the spread of COVID. At this time, we are vaccinating everyone ages 5 and up. Stay safe, New Haven, for all of us.
And you're listening to LoveBabz Love Talk on WNHH LP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio. There you go. So, you want to take a break, a quick music break, and then we'll come back.
And we'll come back.
Yep.
And tap dance, and shout.
Yeah. Maybe.
Dance and shout.
Maybe I'll get up and do a little soft shoe over here.
Nope.
So. No, I won't. All right, we'll be right back.
I pay money to see that, Harry.
We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to LoveBabz Love Talk on WNHH LP 103.5. And for our YouTubers and Facebookers, we'll be right back. Look for the other stream. We'll be back with Alexis Robbins.